parameters or arguments in Python. You recall that in the first video I spoke of how basically, when you're writing a function, in the previous video rather, you're writing a function, you have to put def, this thing, and then you put, the name of the function, and then you put these brackets, right? But I never really explained what these brackets could be used for, right? I mean, you could just use them. I mean, you could just do this, but then if you um, if you want to, like expand your function, you can put arguments and parameters. So what are parameters or arguments? So back to the calculator example. When you type on your calculator 5 times 3, right? And you press equals, the calculator knows that, hey, I have to just basically get this number, get whatever operation they're doing, get the next number, and then display the result, which is 15, right? But what if instead of me doing 5, let's say I do 8, right? It's not that this equals just does 5 times 3, right? It knows that, hey, you know this is it knows that it's been adjusted, right? So instead of just doing 5 times 3, it will do 8 times 3, right? Because it's not just looking at 5 and 3, right? It's looking at whatever number is put here and whatever number is put here. I don't know if that makes sense, but basically, right, it's adjusting to whatever whatever information you're giving it. It's operating the same instruction, which is this, do this with whatever operation of this, but then it's adjusting for different cases, for different information put. That's the same thing with the parameter here, right? With the parameter here. So basically, you just you just, let's say for example, I want this thing to print out someone's name, right? Name, right? I'll call this function name, and I'm gonna put a parameter. A parameter, by the way, is similar to a variable name. If you recall from the first video, I talked about variable names. That's the same thing with a parameter. You just put any name, right? Same convention. You don't start with numbers. You don't start with I mean, you can't put these symbols and all this stuff, right? Just any name, right? So I'm gonna call this, name. I'm just gonna call it name, right? And then what I wanted to do is that whenever someone puts name, I want you to print name. Just print name, basically. I hope this name is not confusing. Let's use something else. Let's just say, person. Let's just call, yeah, person, right? So you put the name, and then it just prints out the name, right? So if I want to call out this function, I just say person, right? Bob, right? And then I run this, it will just print out Bob, right? I hope this makes sense, right? It's a similar concept here, right? In that, this is the same, just think of this as the person function. What it's doing is that, hey, whatever's being taken here, I'm just basically showing it on the screen, right? I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Let me give a more practical example. Let me also have this so that I see how much time I have left. Alright, so let me give a more practical example. Let's say I'm a teacher, I'm marking an exam my students have written, and I have different scores, right? That the exam is out of 37, a very odd number, right? An odd number, and some students will get 20 out of 37, 40 out of 37, 50 out of 37 or something like that, right? And oh, not 50, sorry, not even 40. What am I saying? This is a higher. Let's say some students will get 20, others will get 30, others will get 15, and I want to basically print out a percentage for them. That when someone gets 20, I want it to tell me what 20 out of 37 is in percentage, right? Or 15 out of 37 is in percentage, right? Using a function, right? How do we do this? Well, first thing is first, in any function, you just basically write the def. This is every function, right? And I'm going to call this grade. I'm going to call the name of this function grade. And then the parameters I'm going to add, I just want to, I want the grade. I want the score, right? The score that the student has put. And then what I want this to do is that it should just print wait, yeah, print print score. Oh, let's put it in a variable first so that it's easier. Let's just say percent will equal to by the way, it's the same. It's not just this, right? You can put strings, you can put whatever, right? But yeah, I hope that makes sense. um, so yeah, percent is equal to score divided by 37, right? 37 score divided by 37. Let me just put this in brackets, times 100. I hope this works a similar way Java does, but with the whole brackets thing. I'm talking about the brackets, because in other programming languages you can actually put brackets so the computer knows it perform this calculation first before this one, similar to normal math. But I hope this works. Anyways, when that happens, then I wanted to print out percent, right? So that's the name of the function, right? Yeah. So now if let's say I'm grading, let's say my student gets 40%, 20 out of 37, I can just do grade, right? Brackets, I just write 20, and then I run this. 54, yeah. Let's say someone got a 36 out of 37. I just run this, 97%. So what is happening here? Let me break this down. Basically, when the computer is running this, it's going to read that, hey, this person has declared a function, the name of the function is grade, and the argument they're putting, or the parameter they're putting, is just this variable called score, right? Is score, right? So whenever someone calls on grade, whenever someone writes grade, calls the name grade, right? They have to put this parameter. If you call a function without putting its parameter, if it has a parameter or argument, it causes an error. Like if let's say I just wrote grade without putting anything in here, it would actually cause an error. But yeah, basically the computer reads that, hey, this person has declared that they're about to define a function. The function name is grade. They're putting a score. So whatever number they put in here, what I'm going to do is, what am I going to do? Oh, okay, here, right? I'm going to create a new variable called percent, and then this percent is going to take this score here, right, and divide it with 37, right? And when it's done that, this brackets here kind of tell it that this is the first operation. It's then going to multiply it with by 100, right? And then it's going to print the percent, right? I hope this makes sense, right? Yeah. There's also one thing you should note, that this only doesn't have to be one, right? You can actually put different variables. What if, let's say, I'm marking multiple tests, right? So let's say, yeah, difference. I'm marking both English and math tests or something, and they have different numbers. Let's say this is a math test, it's out of 37, and the English test had like 50 different questions, right? I can just put, total, right? I can put another variable. I just have to separate it with a comma. Whatever variable you put, you just have to separate it with a comma. So I just have to put total, right? And then when I put total, I can just say, instead of just, confining to one thing, so it can be the same thing, right? So if it's a math thing, just put 37, it'll give me same thing, right? If it's another student who got, let's say, 25 out of 26, let's say out of 50, I just run this, same thing, right? The computer knows, okay, there's a function called grade. It's defined a function called grade, has two arguments. Whenever someone puts, calls it and puts information like this, I just know that I have to just basically, create a new variable, call it percent, so I don't even have to do it once. I can even do it like this, something like this, right? But I hope all this makes sense. And yeah, that's basically about functions and parameters.